Seven Deadly Sins. Probably one of the most controversial shows on the internet if we're talking about anime. If it's not number one, it has to be a top 5 because there are a lot of people that love it and there are a lot of people that hate it. And I think the controversy comes with good reason, right? There's a lot of things within the show that can be looked at as really good or really bad. I just finished the show. I've been sitting on these last 4 episodes of the show for like damn near a year now. I don't know why. I really don't. I should have just finished it. I think it's because I was like kind of on some websites that may or may not be deemed not good by the US government. So I was waiting for Netflix. That's gonna be my excuse. I was waiting for Netflix because I want to be a good moral citizen. But no, I just finished watching and I have a bit to say. There will be spoilers in this video. If you haven't seen all of Seven Deadly Sins, I'm just going to be talking about it. So I would suggest either watching it or finishing up if you haven't. But I would also like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get 10K before the end of the year. And I do videos like this if you're new around here. And I also do gaming videos, reaction videos, and other types of videos as well. I try to keep the variety there. You know, I try to do different things. But yeah, this is basically a lot of what I do. But let me just get into it, man. I don't even know where to start. One thing I know for sure, I'm not going to be getting into the specifics, right? Because I'm just going off the top of my head. I have some bullet points written down, but I'm not going to be going into all these specifics because it would take me forever. The show, it's a big show. You know, there's a lot of different battles and characters. And I saw some people in my last couple of videos saying, oh, you need to do some research about this because you know what you're talking about. Listen, okay? Listen, I may not know what I'm talking about sometimes. But that's just because I'm going improv, brother. That's what I learned in my debate class. Okay, I'm just gaining skills as we speak. But I'm just gonna start with the characters in the show really quick, and then I'm gonna get into the story and how I feel about that. I think the cast of characters is a very big plus if we're talking about Seven Deadly Sins. We have Meliodas. Now, Meliodas, he is arguably a top tier main character, but he is also a felon. He has seen Elizabeth grow up on multiple occasions in different reincarnations, and somehow his hands end up in the same place. Now, Meliodas is 3,000 years old. Right? And he has been through many reincarnations of Elizabeth. But the only issue is on this current one, when the show starts, she's 16, brother. Man. And I understand to an extent, right, Meliodas? I mean, you're looking for love. This is your girl. You know this is the one, but you just can't get your grasp on her, so you have to physically grasp her. You missed the mark by 2 years, though. So, you know, I don't know what the rules are where you're at in your little kingdom, but that's an issue for me. You know, we're gonna have to put a red flag on that. But other than that, Meliodas is a really good character, and he has a really deep backstory compared to a lot of these other characters. So him alone, he's already a great main character for the show itself. He's funny. He has his little, you know, criminal moments, but he is funny, and he does, when he gets serious, that shit's like, it's a good serious. Like, it's not cheesy. It's nice. He really flips on that switch. But then we also have the other Seven Deadly Sins, such as Bond. Bond's a fan favorite. I love Bond. He kind of fell off for me a little bit. He also has some questionable life choices. I'm not picking Elaine over Jericho. I'm sorry. Okay? I don't care how much you love her. I am sorry. But that, again, it's personal preference. He has a reason to love Elaine. You know, but I have a reason to love Jericho. Look at her. Look at that pastel blue hair. Oh my goodness. I'm not even gonna get started with Jericho. Gunther, he's a good character. We have Deanne. Deanne, she started off like in Meliodas. She was this big giant girl who has bodacious attributes to her. Gotta love her. And then there's Elizabeth, obviously, and I just spoke about her a little bit. And then there's King. Listen, if I saw King in real life right now, I'd dap him up. Shout out to that man. Okay, he got what he wanted. He got Deanne, and I appreciate him for it. He stuck to it, and he showed her what a real man is supposed to be. Now, he may be 4'3". I'm spitting bars real quick, but you know that he could be the fairy king, and he got that shit rocking. Those are good characters. And then Escanor and Merlin, those are also 2 great characters from the Seven Deadly Sins. I feel like everyone plays their role really well, and there's not a character from the main 7 that I don't like. Not at all. If I had a least favorite one, it would probably be Gunther, but that's just because he's the least human, I guess. But it's not like he's a bad character. His backstory is probably one of the best in the Sins, and he has a lot to him. And then there's all these side characters. They have a bunch. And if there's one thing I like about the show, it's that they have characters. There's Gilia or whatever, sexy. Jericho, sexy. Henderson, sexy. Dreyfus, sexy. No, Dreyfus. And then they have all the commandments. And then they have Derriere, my girl Derriere. Don't even get me started with. She's probably, for me, she's like a top 3 character in the show. Like, not even girl. Like, I just really like her character and the energy she brings to the show. I love her. They have Monspeed. Zeldris is a great character. Estarossa, top tier character in the show. Arthur, he's cool. They have a bunch. So all in all, I think the roster in this show is very diverse, and there is no one, like, there's some characters that look the same in the face, but that's really it. Everyone is sort of in their own lane and very original, so I do appreciate that about the show. Now I'm gonna get into the story a little bit, because that's really like the important part of the show, right? Season 1 in this show, when I was watching about 3-4 years ago, I thought it was great. I thought the animation was great, and I was watching, I was like, what is the hate about this show? Because keep in mind, when I started the show was still getting hate, and I only started the show because it was getting the hate. I was like, there's no way that this show is this bad, and like the animation gets this bad, because from the clips in season 1 and season 2 that I saw, it looked like a very good show, and it caught my interest, like the characters, the art style, everything. So I watched season 1, I'm enjoying it. We see Meliodas gathering all the sins, because there's the Holy Night thing going on, and they're going a little crazy. Henderson, whatever, he's looking for power, he gets the power. I'm thinking this guy's busted as fuck, and that no one is even touching him. Lo and behold, we're getting 10 commandments who would wash him in a second. So it's like, in the beginning of the show, they do a really good job at making you think that person is like that main villain of that arc, I guess you could say, is stupidly strong and there's no one touching him. But yeah, so season 1 for me was great start to the show. I don't really have much to say about it. There's nothing to go too deep into about it. It was honestly kind of a flawless season, if I'm being honest. Like the Gale Thunder versus Meliodas thing with the spears and the electricity. Oh shit, that scene alone carried the fucking season. That was so good. And if that animation persisted throughout the whole show, I think we would be saying a different story about the show right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I'll get there when I get there, because season 2 rolled around, and I don't know how we're talking about this. If we're talking about it in terms of Netflix, season 2 is like 4 episodes. I'm not gonna talk about it like that though. I'm gonna talk about it like seasons 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 5. So season 2 rolls around, we're getting introduced to the 10 commandments, right? In season 1 we had stuff like the festival. I think there's like the fighting festival, as I said, the Henderson thing. There's a lot of different things going on in terms of building characters and gathering everyone. Now everyone's together, but now we're facing a foe who's similar to us, right? The 10 commandments, I thought this shit was genius. Why we have the 7 deadly sins who are looked at in terms of the real world like it's supposed to be a bad thing, and the 10 commandments are supposed to be good, but it's flip-flopped, right? So I already like the dynamic. I don't remember how the Meliodas thing started with his demon mark, but I think he's starting to already like get somewhat corrupted by it. I don't remember exactly, but we see Zeldris and everyone pull up, and I already like this group of characters, but we have yet to meet Escanor. I don't remember if we met Merlin already, but I know we have yet to meet Escanor, and then we see him pull up to the pub with Bon and whoever else. I think it was Bon and Jericho, because they're traveling together. Side note, Bon, listen to me. If I'm traveling with Jericho, she does not stand a chance. Right now, let me take that back, actually. Let me roll. Obviously, consent is an important thing, and I will not be engaging in any sort of physical contact if that consent is not approved by the other party. But knowing how Jericho is and knowing how she likes you, Bond, if you're like, yo, let's do something, she would be like, I'm down. I'm down. Me, I'm down. Okay, so you folded that opportunity and you got with Elaine, who is like the build of like, but I'm not even gonna talk about that. Okay, we're talking about Escanor. Galliard, whatever his goddamn name is, he pulls up on Escanor thinking shit's sweet, and then we see Escanor in action for the first time, and damn it, man, this guy is a fucking threat. Someone put him in jail. He needs something to, because every time, now granted, Escanor is not my favorite character in the show by any means, nor is he my favorite sin, but he is a really good character in terms of just like being a cold ass nigga. Like, he literally looked Galen. I don't remember what Galen's thing was, but I think it was like fearing your opponent. Like if you fear your opponent or some shit, or you turn your back on them, I think it was, then you will get petrified like Medusa. And Escanor was such a threat, he made Galen turn his back on him and go back on his own fucking commandment, and then he's the stone. He's the stone man. I would have taken that statue of Galen and I would have put it in my house just for everyone to see. But yeah, no, so going this season, we have a lot going on. We learn more about Meliodas' backstory, which is actually like very sad. The fact that he has to keep watching these reruns of his girlfriend getting absolutely slaughtered in some way, shape, or form for the last 3,000 years. That's a curse. Okay, that's some fucked up shit. So he ends up fighting off against the commandments, and we learn that Zeldris and Esterosa are his brother. That was such a good fight. That was a top tier fight in the series. Even if it wasn't, it could have been animated better, but that fight was like peak 7 deadly sins for me, and I was really enjoying the show at this point, and I'm still in the dark about how people are hating on the show. I don't understand. Right? We're getting some cold thumbnails. We're getting some cold shots from this fight. This shit's just sexy. And I don't know how people are hating on the show. And then we see some shit like Esterosa versus Escanor. And I'm like, wow, this show is progressively getting better. What is happening? There's no way. And then we see Meliodas smacking niggas like Brodrin out to the oblivion. He went and he was gone. Like, it was just, there were so many moments from this season. I was loving it. I was like, damn, this is fucking fire. I just didn't understand it, right? We get to next season. We're learning more about Glaxinian, everyone, and then we start seeing some of the commandments, I'm pretty sure, like, become better because they, like, took off their commandment mark or whatever. And then Elizabeth is turning into her angel self because we're learning that there's, like, the archangels and the demons or whatever. And Meliodas is getting corrupted over time, something like that, if I recall correctly. And then we find out, like, him and Elizabeth have different curses, and that her mom is this, his dad is that, and his soul gets stuck in a purgatory. There's, like, the commandments that are still trying to fight, but then they're also trying to fight the archangels and whatever. There's a lot going on, right? Like, you could hear me right now, I'm just saying stuff and I'm not even hitting everything either, but there's a lot going on in this season. But this is where the show started to go downhill for me. And I think this is where it started to go downhill for everyone, and that's only because of animation quality, and I think because of storytelling. I think the storytelling in seasons 1 and 2 it was just done a lot better, and it was taken care of with a lot more care than it was in the last couple of seasons, right? It just felt like everything was jumbled, and while everything made sense, I feel like stuff could have been told a lot better, right? Because we see Meliodas kind of betraying everyone, and, like, Zeldris is trying to become the king or whatever, but then Meliodas is back, so then they have their little quarrel. Bond goes to purgatory, and he's becoming an absolute threat himself. We see him find Meliodas' soul, and then they have to sort of escape, and then Zeldris, like, gets this new form, and there's so much going on. And also within this, we see Estarossa becoming an absolute freak of nature. He's just absorbing everyone's commandments, and this is where I got upset, because he went to Darrieri's house and she was already with Monspeed. I think they already retired. They hung up their 10 commandment jerseys and they were done. They were out of the league, but then he was pulling up because he was trying to get their thing. So then Monspeed, I think, sacrifices himself. And listen, Monspeed, I understand you gotta protect your woman, but I'm taking my woman named Darrieri and I'm hightailing it out of there, because I know he didn't even hit yet. That's the thing, and I'm not wasting that opportunity. That's just me, Monspeed. But if you want to do that, you're still looked at as an honorable man in my eyes, you know, regardless of which way you took. But Darrieri, again, shout out to you, girl. I love you, girl. Oh my. But no, she becomes a great character too. There's a lot going on. We see King and the Fairy King, blah, 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 blah. But as I was saying, Estarossa is on an absolute rampage, and we find out that he's actually an archangel. And that's the thing I also liked about this show up until the last couple episodes, which I'll get to, is that there are a lot of quote unquote twists. Like, we see Estarossa taking all these powers, whatever, and I'm just thinking he's becoming a force of nature, but then we find out that he's actually like some angel who lost his memory because of Gother or whatever it was. You know what I mean? All in all, Meliodas, I think they fight Zeldris or whatever. Zeldris gets his girl, this vampire chick, and he finally gets on good terms with everyone, and he becomes a good character himself, and him and Meliodas' relationship gets fixed because Zeldris was mad Meliodas left or whatever, and they beat the Demon King. Wow, story's over. Wrong. Wrong. I mentioned Arthur earlier, right? I did. And also, before I mention that, shout out to Escanor, man. Shout out to Escanor, because he died valiantly in battle while they were fighting this Demon King. He went full on max stats for the one time. He could really do this only once, or else he would be burnt to a crisp. And he maxed out his heat threshold, basically. And he was just on fire. He was engulfed in flames. He was engulfed in flames and he was done for, but it gave him an extra power boost, and Merlin gave him a kiss that sealed the deal, and she kept the scar there because it was the only man that she loved. Or should I say the only man that loved her? You know why? Oh, why? Because the only man that she loved, at least I'm assuming to this day, is Meliodas. What? Meliodas? What are you talking about? Thinking the story's over, and then Merlin pulls up to the lake, and I'm like, okay, why is the lake talking, and why is Merlin looking like she's a villain right now? What is she doing? Is she on some Kaguya Otsuki shit? Is this some Black Is That 2 shit? Has she been behind the lines this whole time and now she's the big bad? Yes and no, right? Basically, we see her memories, and this girl had a crush on Meliodas. Like, did everyone have a crush? I mean, I would have a crush on Meliodas too. He's that guy. You know, he's that guy. I mean, I'm thinking season 1 and 2, he's the most broken character in like all of anime. I'm not even thinking anyone's beating his ass. So then when he got a challenge, I was like, oh shit. But no, I would have a crush on Meliodas too. Like, I understand, but damn it, man. So we find out Merlin had this crush, and then it was like, oh, she couldn't even hate Meliodas and Elizabeth because they were so nice to her or whatever, right? So then she turns to her adult form from being a kid, and then she goes on a quest to find this chaos thing. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I thought the show was over. I thought we were about to have everyone go get married, call it a day. I'm thinking it's done. I'm incorrect again, because Arthur pulls up with the sword in his chest. I completely forgot this guy did that. Like, they beat the Demon King, and I'm not even thinking of this guy. I'm thinking he's Raps, or he just woke up and he's, like, just chilling. But he pulls up, dude's the most broken character in the show. Excuse me? Why is he the King of Chaos? And why wasn't this mentioned earlier? Because I know they emphasized Arthur a little bit earlier on in the series, and he was like a focal point a lot of the time, and I didn't know why. So then I find out that Merlin is fucking selfish, and she's been trying to just figure out if the King of Chaos is real or whatever. So then she was like, oh, Arthur's the reincarnation of him, whatever. Let me put the sword in him, give him this power. They end up fighting his goddamn cat. Why? Why? I have another problem though. Why on earth, out of anything in the show, was the chaos, quote unquote, within the goddamn boar's head pig? Why? Why was it? I didn't understand that. They were just sitting on chaos. So was that supposed to be symbolic? If it was, you know what? Cool beans. I'll let it be. It's whatever. You know, I don't understand it. I didn't understand how the pig, I always found it weird how the pig looked like it was like being remote controlled. Like that shit barely even blinked ever. You know what I mean? So I didn't even think it was like a real entity like that, but just seeing it melt into some pudding and then somehow the cat like take the chaos power and they go on this, like that part was so confusing, and that part genuinely felt rushed. There were a lot of parts from the last season that felt rushed, but holy shit, give me a break. Please, I'm begging on my knees. Like this whole chaos thing could have probably been a season in itself, if we're really being honest, but they condensed it into 4 episodes. Like that could have probably been a 12 episode stretch with proper explanation and proper build up, but Arthur pulled up from the depths of wherever the fuck, and then he was just like, listen, I'm him. Like he didn't know he was him. This dude was speaking words and he was just creating worlds out of the fucking depths of his bowels. Like I don't know what was going on. This guy, he wasn't weak, but he wasn't strong. You know what I mean? Compared to Meliodas and the Sins in the beginning, he was not weak, but he was not fucking strong. And then this guy is creating whole other dimensions like he runs the place. Okay, you know what? You got that. All in all, he fights his cat. His cat who was birthed from Hawk's mother, who's probably not even his mother because she's a pile of goop. I think Hawk just called because it looked like a pig. Hawk was like, that's my mom. Fuck no. So Hawk's mom is still a mystery, I'm guessing. I don't know what the fuck is going on. That's what I'm saying. Like, who's Hawk's mom then? So if the show stopped at this point and I didn't know that there was another series called The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, I would probably realistically be a lot more upset than I am, right? Because I was watching this shit and I was genuinely getting invested into this little chaos thing, but the amount of shit that they were throwing at me at once, I was just like, oh my goodness, relax. Elizabeth and Meliodas get married. Merlin and Arthur go off and build their own kingdom. Bon and Elaine, we see Elaine is pregnant. Bon, listen, she has her child, and honestly, you guys made a good looking child. Like he looks cold. And if we're talking, like, Jericho is a better looking woman, of course, you know I'm picking Jericho. But if we're talking about a kid with power, I'm not. You know, that fairy shit that she's got going on, you can't get. He's a strong ass kid. He definitely looks cold. Look at him. I mean, he could probably pull up to Jericho right now because he damn near looks like Bond. She's a cougar at this point. She's like 46 and he's probably 12 years old. He could probably pull up on her. Yo, listen, let's get out of here. And she'll be like, let's skedaddle. Let's go do it, because he probably is on it. King and Deanne had a kid too. I see. That's the part that's confusing to me. How did we do this? Like, did King pull out Chastity Fold cock edition? So how do we keep this? Because we could have kept this shit gargantuan and went big mode with it, you know, and then King could have probably like fairy kinged his willy and then went crazy, or we could have went human mode. Now, considering the fact that their kid is the size of a human, I'm assuming, however it works in this world, if she gets impregnated as a human size, then maybe she bears a human child. Let's hope so, right? I don't know how that one worked. That was weird to me, but good shit, King. I'm happy for him. If there's one character I'm happy for, he got his girl. But then we got Meliodas and Elizabeth's child, who looks cold as hell too. Like the gray hair, that's just nice and like nice and flowy, and he has the 2 different eyes. That's sick. He's a sick looking character. And again, the show ended like that. They go off, and then we see that the kid's like, oh, I'm gonna be a 7 deadly sin. Wrong. You're a 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. But I do like the fact that they set up the story and that the story is going to get animated. And I'm assuming the main character has to be Arthur and Merlin's kid. It just has to be. And if Meliodas and Elizabeth's kid is not leading the pack, there's no other person's kid that could be leading the pack, knowing that this kid is slicing and dicing universes and shit. And I don't know what the plot for that show could possibly be, because I thought all of the threats were already eliminated. In summation, I think the story was a good story. I think it was a good story that was all over the place, but it was still linear at the same time. I like that they emphasized a lot of the characters and they focused on a lot of the characters. I also like the fact that it felt very fresh. Like, it was a very bingeable show to me. I would like sit and I would watch like 7 in a row. And I think it is just the atmosphere, the characters, the music was cool, but it wasn't anything crazy to me. But no, it was really the atmosphere and the characters. And again, if they carried that animation the whole way through, we would have been talking about something else. We would have been talking about a different show, because we went from Guild Thunder versus Meliodas and Meliodas versus the Commandments to Meliodas versus Escanor, dog. Oh my gosh, the amount of hype that fight would have actually had if it was done properly. But we see Meliodas like, what is he doing? Like, this shit, like, deadass looked like a children's cartoon. I don't know what I was looking at. I really don't. It's like, you know when you have like a paper in school and you have a rough draft? It's like they had a rough draft, but they only had the first and second paragraph of the rough draft. So they didn't even have the full rough draft done. They just had a portion of the rough draft completed, and that was what they put on the screen, right? When he was laying in the bed with Elizabeth, Meliodas needed like 3 or 4 more layers of like corrections and like edits and revises to his character. But I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I really don't. That's the part that upset me, and that's the part that upsets me with some of these shows. Not even only this show, but there are just shows that, like, I understand maybe a budget's tight or something, but like it just seems like some of these studios don't try, and they're just like, here, take it. Like, let's not try. But it's like, Seven Deadly Sins was a really good project that had potential. Honestly, if paced properly and animated properly, a top 10 show. I'm not even joking. That's just my opinion, though. That's just my opinion. I think it had that type of potential because I think it focused on characters. I'm using Naruto as an example. I think it focused on characters better than Naruto. I think the story as a whole was just as interesting as Naruto. They had tournaments. They had good villains. They had different enemies pulling up that made sense, right? The Henderson thing made sense. The Ten Commandment thing made sense. The whole Demon King thing, that made sense, right? All of the enemies for the most part, except the Chaos thing at the end, which was kind of like just thrown in there, all of them made sense. Everything could have been done so good, and it would have been that type of tier show. I really think so. The only other problem with the show I think I have is that they didn't really kill characters off either. I think there were a couple characters that died or were on the verge. I think Jericho died damn near like 3 times. Like, she's still roaming free. But yeah, no, so that was I guess a downside of the series. But if I were to give 7 Deadly Sins a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, now let me give a potential rating. A potential rating could have been a 9. Straight up. I really enjoyed the show, the characters, if executed properly. 9. Honestly, I could see that being a rating of the show. How the show actually turned out, I think a 7.9 is reasonable. Now, I don't know if people think that's too high, too low, but me personally, I didn't see a problem with the show for about half of it. Even if the execution, animation-wise, of the whole Demon Archangel thing and the Meliodas Escanor fight and all of those fights wasn't the best, I think the story itself was still very interesting. I enjoyed it a lot, but the execution just wasn't there, and I think the fact that they didn't kill off people was also a downside, and there were just a couple little things here and there, like the OST is okay, but so 7.9. It's a good show. It's a good show, and I would recommend this show to people. I think people over exaggerate when they're like, oh, stop at season 2 and don't watch it after that, or like you could watch the show. It is tough. Some of it is fucking tough. It is annoying, but you could watch the show. You know what I mean? So yeah, recommend some more shows for me. I'm not trying to watch some huge like Gintama type show, because to do a review on that, it would take me, I would need to think so much. It is too much for my brain to handle. But no, I'm fine with like smaller shows like 12, 24 episodes, even 48 episode shows. Just recommend some shows. Now, granted, am I going to get to the shows soon? Probably not. You know, I got a lot on my plate, but I just want an idea of what shows are out there that are good so I can progressively get to them over my months and years on the platform. Because, I don't know if you know, but we're almost at 10K. And if you haven't subscribed, I would appreciate a subscription. That would be nice. That would be dope. And I plan on hitting, let's shoot for 100K by the end of next year. That's the goal. That's the goal right now. So we'll see what's going on. Appreciate for watching the video. I guess let me know your opinion down in the comments. And yeah, on to the next one.